Hello everyone. So this isn't my normal style of video, but I felt like this warranted a discussion. So the other day, the president of Square Enix, Yosuke Matsuda, released a New Year's statement, and he touched on how the company would be pursuing NFTs moving forward because he felt it was a great opportunity. This caused some outrage in the gaming community, but also quite a bit of confusion, causing some gamers to think they'd be able to transfer items from one game to another. That is borderline impossible, and building towards that future where assets are transferable would kill ingenuity and creativity by requiring all games that utilize that tech be made in exactly the same way. The same naming conventions, scaling, item structure, data management. This would be a horrendously monumental task. It would require a much heavier workload on the game developers at the bottom of the totem pole in those companies, exacerbating the already terrible crunch culture, and it likely still wouldn't even work. I'm going to explain why. So, here in the Unreal Engine, this is my character. This is her skeleton. The way items and weapons are bound to a character skeleton are through sockets attached to the bone. So, for instance, in my character's left hand, she has a shield slot and a bow slot, and it lets her hold on to these. Now, this socket is specifically set up to align with the shields in this game because it binds to the pivot point of this 3D model when I imported it. So if I move that socket, it moves the pivot point of the shield and changes around where it's held at. Same thing with the bow, same thing with the sword. Now, even inside the same engine, characters might not have the same skeleton. So for instance, this one's skeleton goes hips, spine, spine 1, spine 2. But a lot of things inside the Unreal Engine use this skeleton. So this one is root, pelvis, spine _01, spine _02, etc. But in order for the NFT thing to even work, it would require carbon copy skeletons across not just one game, but all the games that utilize that technology. And it would require the exact same spelling, socket placement, scaling of the mesh, everything, in order to make the sword work. So for instance, if I take a sword off of her that's bound to her socket here and tried to implement it on him, it would spawn in the floor and be completely unusable. They're not even in the same pose. This is the A pose, which is standard in Unreal Engine. This is T posing, like you may have seen in other instances or media or stuff like that. Or for those that are game developers, you know all about this. But not only would it not work from an aesthetic perspective, the data management would be way off. So the way I add items to my inventory, it utilizes this item's info structure. So I'm measuring the item class, which is a blueprint inside the game. It has the name here, the image of the item, all of this. This is how many I can carry of it, or this is how many I can carry, this is how many I am carrying. This is how effective the item is, the price, the sell value, all of this stuff. It has to be the same across any item that comes into this game. And other games have their own way of doing data management. So this is my data table that stores all that item information that I just showed you, that structure. So for instance, my health potion has this texture. I have one of them, I can carry 99. And everything in another game that tried to utilize this health potion setup would have to be set up in the exact same way. Because the way I use an item inside my player blueprint, I'm checking the item type and then doing different things based off that, which this is tied to an enumerator, which lists all the different types of items. So any other game that tried to use the potions from this one would also have to have not only my item info structure set up the exact same way, it would require this item type enumerator set up the same way, my item ID set up the same way. Inside the player blueprint, it would have to look for the same variables to update. When I do my attack traces, other games might handle hit recognition differently because mine just does a line trace or a sphere trace. And it doesn't even attack from the sword. It attacks directly from the character, the scene component attached. It just shoots out the range of the weapon. So there are a multitude of reasons why you will not be able to transfer items from one game to another without a serious overhaul of the industry, streamlining everything into one carbon copy, cookie cutter. Every game would have to be made the exact same way, probably look the same, function the same. It would just kill ingenuity. It would be the death of the games industry. And it won't be able to work. There is a caveat to all of this, in the sense that there are certain games like Fable had Fable 2 and Fable 3. I think it had a system to where you could transfer weapons from Fable 2 to Fable 3, so it could be a viable gimmick for games in a series, but as far as a broad spectrum thing, it's not going to happen that way. Now, games in a series can do it because the third installment of a series will have all the information of the second installment and be able to build on, expand, include, do everything it needed to be able to utilize all this. But finally, the last problem I have with NFTs is Anil Dash, one of the creators of the NFTs, has some problems with how exploitable they are. He said, "The NFT prototype we created in a one-night hackathon had some shortcomings. You couldn't store the actual digital artwork in a blockchain. Because of technical limits, records in most blockchains are too small to hold an entire image. Many people suggested that rather than trying to shoehorn the whole artwork into the blockchain, one could just include the web address of an image. We took that shortcut because we were running out of time. 7 years later, all of today's popular NFT platforms still use the same shortcut. This means that when someone buys an NFT, they're not buying the actual digital artwork. They're buying a link to it. And worse, they're buying a link that, in many cases, lives on the website of a new startup that's likely to fail within a few years. Decades from now, how will anyone verify whether the linked artwork is the original?" I will leave a link to his full statement in the description if you'd like to check it out for yourself. But this is just another way that games companies are going to try to milk their players. It started with the microtransactions. It got out of hand there. I mean, when even Call of Duty was selling a red dot for $1. They're just looking at y'all like cash cows, and this is the next scam to milk your wallet dry. So for the people who are excited about it, thinking that you'll be able to transfer items from one game to another, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but don't get sucked into this and get exploited. That's it for this one. I'll be back soon with another tutorial in the series. I will see y'all there. Bye-bye.